Okay, folks, here we are, this morning's weekly Fife Property Show. We're going to be talking about gaining extra pounds. Now, it's not Christmas. We're no feeding ourselves up and starting ourselves full. This is about fine-tuning the most valuable and saleable parts of your home. So it's all about adding this significant value. Perry, why is that the case? What is the most important point here to do?
I think the thing to recognise as well, though, is not every part of your home is created equally, is it? You're using all your different rooms in different ways, and some have quantifiably higher values to them than others, depending on what room it is. But at the same time, there are those unique and saleable qualities that are less easy to put a figure on. And I think that's where people sometimes struggle. But nonetheless, all of the rooms play a vital role in securing your buyer. And I think that's something that you need to be aware of. Different spaces require a different approach. So if you've divided, so what we're going to talk about really is all of the different parts of the property within this show today, give you a bit of an insight into how you can maximise and create your space. We're going to cover places like your living room, kitchens, which are always the big high item. Anyone who likes cooking, spending time, that's one of the major things I know I look at when I'm looking at a house. Bedrooms as well, what do they look like and how comfortable are they and how much do you enjoy there and how much time do you want to spend there? Because they're a bit of a safe haven, and a good night's sleep and all that helps you with the next day, doesn't it? Bathrooms as well is a massive thing. And your garden, which I'm currently in the process of doing. Getting outside and enjoying the gardens. This lovely weather we're having makes a big difference to what people do as well.
Geez, I can't stand gardens.
I love mine.
I love sitting in them. I love enjoying them. I love relaxing them. I love the sunshine. I love everything all about it. But see, when it comes to doing the garden, it's like, oh no. But ideally, when I had all the time in the world, this is personal choice, by the way, because I work all the time and I love working. When I had all the time in the world, then gardening was really nice. But now I don't have all the time in the world. Through choice, gardening isn't that attractive anymore. So yeah, I get it straight away. What's the things that we should think about then when we're looking at this?
So I think what we need to do is take a look at what the buyers are looking for in each of these areas. I think that's the key. We'll give you a bit of a guide into it. So when we're finished with the show and the information share, hopefully you'll be able to identify the most valuable parts and saleable parts of your home. So you can get ahead of the market whenever you're ready and coming to sell. And that's for everyone out there who's maybe watching it now or on follow-up. The first thing we're going to look at is lovable living rooms.
Yeah, living rooms are actually quite a good feature. I mean, when you walk in, it's what's the focal point is probably the most important point for me.
Yeah.
What attracts you the most? Is it going to be the giant 50-inch television, which is going to go with the owner? Or is it the fact that the fixed fireplace is beautiful? It's maybe a proper wood burner there as well, and it looks really extravagant. Or potentially as well, it could be this fantastic bay window. It lets in a lot of natural light. So what sort of things should we be thinking about? That's just off the top of my head. So what sort of things should we be thinking about?
I guess it depends what you're doing with the room. I mean, if you're hanging out with your friends, you're curling up watching Netflix or Sky, many other channels out there, you might be looking at a working from home space as well within the living room because, there might be limitations depending on where you're at. Living rooms are often the deal breakers for buyers who are seeking that magical combination of space, light, and also coziness as well.
Space is quite an important point, isn't it? Because you can typically walk into a living room and some of them look so small, but the reality is the furniture is overpowering in comparison to the size of the room.
Yeah.
And yet, if you remove the furniture and you think about how it would be removed, it's almost like the living room's massive now. And you kind of think to yourself, God, you can get quite a lot in here. So, and typically the most overpowering thing is an L-shaped sofa, isn't it?
L-shaped sofas are a big thing. I've been in a couple of properties recently, actually, where they're really spacious, but actually they've got quite a lot of bulky furnishings. So I don't know if you do this, but certainly when I'm doing it, when we're doing the walkthrough and we're doing the pre-portals or the personal property tours, for me, if it is a big room, but because the furnishings are big, I always say, you know, that's a really big cabinet or that's a really big L-shaped sofa, so that people can kind of try to quantify the sizability of the room with what's in it.
It's putting it in proportion to another thing, and possibly it's the old thing about, you know, when I used to be a letting agent, or you know, I used to go out and do some of the stuff. You would see a mark in the carpet, and you'd have to put a 10p piece down next to the mark, so people would know and understand the proportion of the mark in the carpet compared to the size of the 10p piece, because everybody knew that sort of size. They would still have 10p pieces.
We do.
Oh, we do.
We do.
I wasn't very sure whether they disappeared or not. Imagine that. Just imagine that. I don't know what, you know, if I've got 10p pieces anymore, because I use cards all the time.
Everyone does. Everyone does. But yeah, you're right about the living room. So I think, how do you create that for a lounge? Also, you know, dining room or study, you've got all of those things going on in that same area. So I think for me, making the most of the view is a big thing, and the light sources within the room. I think they're really revealing. Get as much of the window as possible, and dress the room up nicely, but around the window dressing. You've talked about this before, Jim. It's great to have lovely chintz curtains and all the nice hang, but actually, if people are coming, you need to open them, get the light into the room. So it's
it looks really nice for your visitors, but it doesn't look fantastic for the people actually looking to buy your house, because the room looks dark and dingy. If at that point you don't have a much natural light coming into your room, the first thing you should be considering is putting daylight bulbs into your. So in other words, natural clear light. And I don't say white and I don't say yellow or anything. I say natural clear light, and they're called daylight bulbs. So you don't actually know they're on, but the room actually goes up to the normal brightness, and it compensates for the fact that maybe the window at that point in the day might not let enough light in. Now, typical example for us is we had a living room in our first flat, which actually sat, and it had the kitchen that came off the side, and the sun came round the back of the kitchen. So by the time the sun came round, basically it was going down with the way the living room was. So it never really had any natural light coming into it. And that for me was the biggest challenge. And daylight bulbs at that time weren't available, so they would have been perfect.
Yeah, really brighten it up.
As well as the classic, you actually touched on it about the view. This is quite important as well. It's like, why would you cover up and hide a view? But a lot of people actually do that, or they have windows which maybe have got a burst pane, and then what happens is people look over to it and they just see this condensation in the window, but it's actually inside the burst pane on the double glazing.
Yeah, that is a big thing. Actually, it's important, and I think not just that, you're also creating a focal point of the room as well. So I think it's great to create that focal point. It grounds the room's purpose. It tells people why you're in that room. Whether it's an architectural feature, an item of furniture, picture, accessories, as you said, Jim, a fire, a log burner. You know, a lot of people do focus on a room because it kind of indicates what that's for. So it's good to do that in a lounge area.
Yeah. What about sight lines? Is this quite important to open up the sight lines, or?
Very much so, and we've touched on that even with curtains, but opening up your sight lines and removing the clutter is really important. That's including furniture that's too large sometimes or unnecessary to be in a room, to make it easier for buyers to explore without kind of bumping into things and having to walk around things. I think that's really important, that people have that idea of what the space is there for and what it's creating and giving them. I often say that when I go in, you know, because people are quite open. They want us to guide them in what they need to do. So quite often sellers, when you're out there doing the initial valuation, will say, you know, what would you recommend I do? Is there things I should change? And if a room is a bit too cluttered, we'll say to them, well, the famous quote, well, do you want me to sugarcoat it or do you want me to be open? And they say, no, I'll be open because we need to get it right. And I've often said, you know, the room is perfect. You don't need to do anything. What I would do though is I'd maybe take that piece out, or I would move that piece somewhere else, and it just creates an openness. And people will always take it on board. It's important.
So if anybody doesn't understand what a sight line is, it's basically what's the first thing, where does your eye go straight away as you walk in the door? Typical example, a good sight line is the corner of a room. So as soon as you walk in the door, you look over, generally you look over at the corner, you look over at the window, and that tends to be your sight line. But if you've, as I said before, if you've got a beautiful fireplace in front of you, that tends to be as well. And I'm not a big fan of having a massive television in a room, because it makes the room look small, doesn't it?
It can do. Especially when they're on the wall as well, because people just don't see the space.
Yeah.
But I think for those finishing touches, add some comfy textiles as well. This is where I always come in with the textiles and accessorizing. Choosing accessories that are natural as well, materials I think really help. So, you know, ceramics, wood, stone,
Yep.
metal, rather than lots of different colour, because you know, sometimes less is more, shall we say?
Yeah, this is quite interesting because Dave actually says home settings professionals are a massive part of the property industry in parts of the US, the United States. Yeah, absolutely. What they do in the United States is basically somebody comes in to sell your house and all your furniture, existing furniture, is put into storage apparently, and then they just completely regenerate the whole house with new furniture, almost like what you do in virtual staging on a photograph, but they actually do it physically for real. That's actually really surprising, isn't it?
It is really surprising, actually, and I love watching that show. I watched Drew and Jonathan, the Property Brothers, and they do that. People trying to sell and they don't sell for ages. They come in and basically rip it all out in regards to the furnishing, restage it, and they get tens of thousands of dollars more because they've done a good job. So it is really important that you understand how to stage a property to get it ready.
That comes down to the mentality, though, that the public have to understand the investment that they make will actually have a bigger return.
Yes, definitely.
You know, because you do get that. Typically, people will think, well, I've got to pay a few £1,000s for that. I'm actually going to get any real return out of it. And well, look at Linda Martin, classic example of staging a house. You know, when Linda buys a house and completely refurbishes it, she makes it look like a completely different proposition. And the value goes up considerably and significantly to the point where you think, geez, is it really down to doing that and understanding what to do and dressing the house properly? And I think I've got to say, probably the answer is yes.
Yeah,
But a
absolutely.
lot of people just don't want to invest that and actually just decanting all their old furniture and putting new. That's the why we talk about, usually typically, if you're going to buy new furniture for your new house, then buy it for your existing house now and get rid of your old furniture, because you're more or less staging it before you actually leave for your next house, but you're not actually handing that furniture back, you're taking it with you. So why would you not do that?
Well, you often say that, isn't it? And it's not just that, you get to enjoy it as well for the time that you've got it in the current house where you're trying to sell it. I think there's sometimes as well where we do have to have that honest discussion, because we often hear as well, Jim, don't we? Oh, my house will sell, no bother.
I would be a billionaire if I if I got money for every time I heard that phrase. You know, my house will sell, no bother. Okay, right, we'll take that with a pinch of salt.
Yep. People, it's their home, they've lived in there, there's a lot of emotional connections. And I think that's the thing that's hard to come over as well, is that the realization actually you've got to now detach that emotion from it, because you are moving on, you are selling on. So it's about getting the right guidance to be able to just do what you need to do to make that dream happen, because you're moving for a reason.
It's funny when I actually said that phrase about house will sell, no bother. I actually got that right yesterday. My house will sell, no bother. And I said, you're absolutely right. Every house will sell, no bother, at the right price. However, you've got me to get the price that no one else is going to get. And that's where my added value is. And, you know, that's it in a nutshell. Let's talk about kitchens. Kitchens are probably the next one that everybody, as soon as you walk in a kitchen and it's just brand new and it just ticks all the right boxes, it's like, you know, do you think most people have actually made a decision they're buying that house?
Absolutely, they are, Jim. And certainly when I go around a property, for me, the things I'm looking for, even when we're doing the valuation, the kitchen and the bathrooms, for me, they're the big ticket items in a house, because those are the things that really matter to people. So if the kitchen is taken care of and is fantastically well done and it's new, etc., like you say, it makes a massive difference to the buyer, because instantly they're thinking they've saved tens of thousands of pounds.
Yep.
That's just the mentality that comes with it. So, I mean, having a cook-worthy kitchen is really, really important. It's vital. I think kitchens are hands down the area with the greatest concentration of value.
Yeah.
Whether that's an open plan corner to maybe a galley kitchen, because a lot of people like different types of kitchen as well.
Yeah.
To the central hub of the kitchen as well. You know, can I get a dining table in there? Can my family sit while we're cooking and chatting? All of those things are really important to people, isn't it?
So, is it worth going down the town down the town on fixtures and fittings, including many appliances? As possible, you know, is that the thing you should really be doing? Your kitchen needs to look like it's, you know, high quality brands and boost that lux factor? Is that the sort of thing we should be looking for, or depend on the price of the property? Should we actually be just considering things like, I tell you what, if I'm going to do the kitchen, well, here's another thing. Should you really do the kitchen if you're selling your house? Should you go for a mid-market range, or should you go for basic, or should you go for luxury? Where does that all stand? You know, what sort of what's your advice on that? You know, what should you do?
I think for me, I think you've hit the nail on the head when you mentioned about the value of the actual overall property. I think that makes a big difference. I think it's not just the value of the property, it's also what does the rest of the property look like. So if all of the property is high tech and the kitchen needs a bit of an upgrade, sometimes actually I'll say just leave the kitchen, because actually someone will come in and change it anyway. If all of the property is kind of neutral and maybe a few of the rooms need doing, again, I would say just leave it.
Yeah.
If they've done maybe one really great room and actually it really needs doing, then yeah, go low grade. Or where's your location? What price point are you wanting? And does spending maybe 10,000 on a great round kitchen give you 30,000 back? And those are the things we need to judge, because you could put a 10 grand kitchen in one house and it won't add value, but you could put a 10 grand kitchen in another house and it could add maybe 30 or 40,000. It depends, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you're cutting your cloth to suit your purpose, you suit your budget, aren't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's probably the most important point. Should we be ensuring that we've got cupboards and stuff like that? What sort of things should we be thinking about when we've got the kitchen?
Yeah, so it's a space thing. So, you know, you ensure that there is ample cupboards and shelves. It's easy to kind of swallow those up with cookware. I was in a property recently where we talk about sight lines earlier on there, and the kitchen was a galley style kitchen. There was a window and the door was on the same side, but actually down this side of the galley kitchen, what they had done is put a unit under the window, but they had a really big cooking appliance there because the gentleman was a chef. And I said, love the kitchen, but when the videos, photos and viewers are coming, that item needs to go in the cupboard. Oh, but I use it every day. I said, that's fine. You can use it every day.
Stick it in the cupboard and bring it back out.
And bring it back out again.
It's funny, I just told someone that the other day. Just declutter the whole kitchen. Make sure people understand that they can see preparation areas when they're actually looking through these videos and actually looking at the photographs as well. You're not leaving your stuff. So they don't really want to see it in the photograph. They want to see how their stuff's going to actually sit there. Where am I going to put all my items? It's classic, like you said. If you've got a chef coming along, the chef's immediately going to look at these photographs or look at the video and say to themselves, where is all my stuff going to go? Where am I going to put all my preparatory things?
Yeah, I can't cook in the kitchen.
And for the temporary time to do that, to put them in a cupboard and take them back out, you know, it's worth its weight in gold, isn't it?
Totally worth its weight in gold. So it's absolutely vital that you make sure that it looks like there is lots of cupboards and shelving space so that people can put their cookware and crockery in there. Your kitchen needs to look like it's taken life in its stride, and that people can go in there and like muster up a storm in the kitchen without feeling that they're jumping over themselves and tripping over bits and nowhere to chop and nowhere to store. And I do it myself sometimes, you know, if I'm baking, it's just like a calamity in the kitchen.
Whereas that comes straight down to the ergonomic outlay, you know, layout. So you can exactly say, okay, when I start the journey, this is where the plate's going to go. This is where the food going to go. This is where the preparation is going to go. How close is that to the cooker? How close is that to the fridge? And literally, I'm like KFC or McDonald's, how they would plan it. So when one person crosses another, it's done ergonomically and as speedy, as efficient as possible. Know that that's the type of kitchen I'm operating, but that's kind of what floats my boat. What other things do we need to think about in terms of appliances and stuff like that? What's your thoughts on dishwashers?
They're a big factor now. I think that, and I'm actually seeing that more so now after lockdown. I know this sounds daft, but I think people have realised actually how much of their time is precious to them. So they don't necessarily want to be spending time doing things like dishes. You know, so make room for a dishwasher if you can. Even if it's a tiny kitchen, a first-time buyer home usually does feature well-designed half-size models. So you can get, you know, like the little tiny one.
You can get a 400.
Yeah.
You can get a 400 or 600. The 400 is fine. The 400 does about 6 place settings. And to be honest, the 400 could work for every single home. It's just the reality. We all tend to go for the 600 dishwashers, which is a normal unit size, but they take up a lot of space in a smaller kitchen. So 400s are really adequate. But then you've also got to think about it has to be near a water source and a waste source. So generally it'll go, maybe your washing machine will go, if you've got a washing machine in the kitchen, maybe the washing machine will go one side of the basin underneath the drainer, and the dishwasher tends to go either next to that or the other side of the basin as well. So you've got one either side. And that's where, I think for me personally, that's where a lot of costs are incurred in a kitchen. It's not necessarily the kitchen itself, it's the services that you need to move. So when you are going to refurb a kitchen, for example, if you're putting in like for like exactly where it should be because it's exactly how you would want it, you're actually going to be pretty cost effective in doing that. And you can basically shop around for the best value kitchen because that's all you're looking for. Whereas if you're wanting to move your cooker, then you'll have to move the gas, you'll have to move the electric. If you're wanting to move your sink, then you're going to have to replumb somewhere else, and then you're going to have an outlet for the waste and everything. So these are things you've got to think about on your journey. If you do, this is what my recommendation, if you do think about changing your kitchen just because you want to sell the house, then if it's really bad, then I would only change it for a basic kitchen in order to make it look a lot fresher and a lot nicer, but I wouldn't move anything about where it was.
Yeah.
That would probably be my best advice if you were going to go for that, because it would cost a fortune to move all the services because you're getting contractors in now. And then it also delays the critical path of the project because you've got to rely on everybody coming in at the same time, back to back, in order to make that work.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But actually, the dishwasher for me is a positive thing. And a property that we've sold just recently, they had that gentleman's a chef. Funnily enough, we've got a lot of chefs just now. But that gentleman's a chef. And what they did is they had a half dishwasher. But actually then what they also had, because they put a half dishwasher in, they then had the space and they put in like a mini wine cooler fridge. So again, people are thinking, oh, this is nice. Oh, this is luxury because I've got a dishwasher, I've got a wine fridge. It's just the impression that you're creating, isn't it?
Absolutely, that's what it is. It's people aren't buying your house for the fact that it's got 3 bedrooms or 2 bathrooms. They're buying it for what it'll give them by having 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Especially if you've got a bathroom downstairs, bathroom upstairs, or a WC downstairs and bathroom upstairs, because then they know they don't have to go far just to go to the toilet, or guests have to go to the toilet. Nobody have to run up and downstairs. So there's a huge advantage. Plus the fact that it's all level on one level living for maybe an elderly parent or somebody has a need for that, then it can accommodate them. So see how it's not about, primarily on a basic instinct, it's quickly about, yes, it has 4 bedrooms, but then it comes down to where is it and how does that benefit me?
Yeah.
And that's exactly how the kitchen should be as well.
I agree.
How's the kitchen laid out? How does it benefit me? How am I going to use it? How efficient is it going to be for me? Are we going to be able to eat in that room, or have it, at least a breakfast bar, or have a wee, in some smaller flats, I do L-shaped kitchens in the small flats.
Yeah.
So essentially, because it will probably be designed for 2 people, so you could stick up a wee table and chairs with, a chair either side, a fold-up table, and that would work perfectly in the kitchen. So you don't actually need to sit with a TV dinner on your tray while the TV is right in front of you.
Yeah.
That's the sort, and you have that choice to do that, but at least you have the choice not to do it.
Exactly. I think for me as well, one of the things in a kitchen that's really important, especially if it's a family home. So again, you're not going to do this maybe if it's like a first time buyer home, but if it's a family home, get the largest fridge possible. Usually the big American ones that are like connected to the water source and you get ice cubes.
They're a big winner, aren't they? Even though you're not leaving it, people actually realise straight away they could put an American style fridge freezer in there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm mentioning it in most of my videos, even though it's not there. I actually point to areas where potentially you can have American style fridge freezer there, and that makes it work. Because that's what people want. They don't want to go further afield to go and go to a freezer or anything like that. My mum's got a fridge in the kitchen, and then she's got a fridge freezer in the kitchen, by the way, and then she's got a freezer in the laundry, and then she's got a freezer in the garage just in case. There's only 2 of them. It's like, what? It's like, Mum, we have actually left many years ago. We have our own houses now. But you never know. You might need something to eat.
Either that or they've got a fetish for ice cream, Jim.
And it's like, if Armageddon's going to happen, I know where I'm going for my food.
You'll be fine. We won't publish the address, but we'll certainly give an indicator at the time. I think as well, though, one of the things to look at, and we talked about it earlier on as well, is keeping your best gadgets on show. So It might not be the things that you use all the time, but if you've got that nice luxury kind of, so say it's, people who do want to bake or cook in a kitchen, if you've got a beautiful cake mixer, for instance, bring that out and just sit it in a lovely corner, because again, you might not be making anything, but you're giving the illusion that you can do that in that kitchen, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's really important.
The upgrade, here's the upgrade here as well, the worktops. So if your kitchen is looking pretty tired, often if you actually just put new worktops on it, it'll make a fundamental difference. Mm-hmm. And if it's just keeping everything where it is, it actually might be worth it might add a significant amount of value to you. I'm amazed at how many times I walk into people's houses and I'll go, "Oh, you just installed your kitchen last year," and they usually typically go, "No, the kitchen's about 20-year old. We just changed the worktops." Mm-hmm. Like, really? Wow, I never even thought about doing that. Or I just changed the worktops and then I painted the carcasses.
Yep. You know, the other great thing just now, and it's so weird that we're covering this topic just now, because Billy and I were having this conversation this morning. So our kitchen's quite dark, our cabinets, but actually the cabinets are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. So we did it in a house previously, and we were agreeing it this morning. We're actually going to get you can vinyl wrap the cabinets. And
I was just about to say that.
They're fantastic. So we actually did it when we sold our last house with you, Jim, which is how we kind of started this journey. We did it in that house. So it's fantastic what they do. And honestly, I think we vinyl wrapped something like 15 units.
Yep.
And it was about £800, Jim. And that added thousands of value to that kitchen.
Yeah.
Thousands. And we're going to do the same here, but they don't just wrap the cabinets. We've got tiling on the back as well, but I don't want to go to all the expense and work and mess of taking all the tiles off. They actually can put a vinyl wrap on the tiles. So I've got a grey kitchen that's quite dark. The tiles are quite dark and kind of grey striped. So we're sitting this morning. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a vinyl wrapped white, and we're going to get a mustard vinyl backsplash. Yeah. And it might cost us about £600 or £700, and it'll be like a new kitchen.
That's really good. That's a great idea, just to give your kitchen a refresh, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I take it somebody will, anybody out there that's wanting to know more details, you just get in touch with you.
Yeah, I've got the company's details. I can pass that on. But perfect. They're fantastic. So I would certainly do that, and it's a good cost saving, but actually will look like you've put a new kitchen in. But the thing is, if you're only going to invest in one room of your home, the kitchen's where you're likely to achieve the single biggest uplift in the value. So you want to turn that into a magnet for your buyers, because that's the room that people will spend most time in. It's where they'll sit with their friends. It's where they'll sit with their family. It's where they'll socialize. It's where they'll do their engagements. It's where they'll have parties. It's like, it's always a kitchen, eh?
It's a lot of times. Again, I come back to saying yesterday I was at a house, and the first thing I thought, it's a 4-bedroom. It's a huge chunk of house. Yet the kitchen itself was just a typical sort of horseshoe shape. The 3 sides, and you walk into it, that square sort of shape that you walk into. But I didn't think it was enough to have enough storage or anything for this size of house, because they'd gone upstairs, and created another. Basically, they'd gone upstairs and created a whole new living space for someone to be there. That person it would suit my Ben, I'll tell you. He could just disappear upstairs and never appear ever again. Essentially, it was a living room, it was a dining room, and potentially a kitchen and a bedroom, and then a bedroom off the back as well. And it had, I'm sure it had its own shower. And I thought, geez. But then I thought, it's only got this wee kitchen now, which accommodated the downstairs, which would really essentially, I think, either a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom cottage. Now it's a 4-bedroom. You're going to have more people in there, so you're going to need more space in the kitchen. Yeah. So we discussed actually this, and she says, well, actually, we had thought about taking that wall down and taking it into that bedroom and having a massive open plan kitchen and sitting area. Okay. Or a dining kitchen. I thought, that makes sense now. I could see that, and that's something I can talk about in a video walkthrough quite easily and get that message across to prospective buyers. That's what I think is the huge benefit of doing a proper video walkthrough, in a proper talk up with a presenter, because it gets that message across to people who otherwise wouldn't have that imaginative, in their mind about how that would work. They would just normally see the kitchen and go, well, that kitchen's too small, and write that property off straight away.
It's so true. It's that split second, oh no, that doesn't work, and then go on to the next one, flick past to the next thing. So you've got to grab their attention, and I think you're right with regards to the way that we do that videoing, because I know we're talking about kitchens here, but it's not just about the kitchen, and it's not just about the building, and it's not just about, as you said earlier, you need the 3 bedrooms, you need the two bathrooms, and you know what you're doing. It's the bigger picture of everything and the lifestyle that it brings. And the video walkthroughs do that as well, don't we? We talk a lot about the lifestyle, the surrounding areas, what is on offer.
It also enhances the opportunity to have a bigger audience actually attracted to that property, which is ideally what you want, because I know only one person can buy this. But the reality is, if you've got more person vying for this, potentially that could add significant value to the end. So I'd rather have more people in the audience than less people in the audience, because then that's an opportunity to push the price and the value at the end. And that's where the added value is all done. The difference between, I still get this about, a race to the bottom with fees. You get estate agents advertising straight away about the cheapest fee, the cheapest fee, the cheapest fee. And I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen when it comes to the negotiation of the price of your house?
Exactly.
It's going to be the cheapest price that you'll accept. That's the sort of mindset that entrenches in there, where it's the cheapest fee is often trying to save £200 or £300 to the detriment of actually losing thousands of pounds at the end by having the right estate agent and what you're doing. But that's another story.
That's another story. Jim, I'm just going to close my window because someone's jet washing something. There we go. It was a wee bit noisy. You'd probably be hearing it. So that's kitchens, I think. Just make sure that you make it a really good focal point of the home. I think that's the big factor, isn't it? So you've been busy in your kitchen all day. You've been busy in your living room. You've been tidying. Sleeping sanctuaries is the next thing, isn't it?
Yep. And I was out in the camper van last night on the driveway.
Were you? Were you in
I'm getting geared up for Glastonbury.
I didn't know if you were getting geared up or if you'd been sent to Coventry.
No. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's brilliant. It's just like it's so refreshing. It's just natural, and it's the fresh air, I suppose. And that coolness about being outside. Now, I don't mean cool as in you feel cool. I just mean the overall general just relaxation. I think more than anything.
The mental
so,
feeling.
Well, I'm going to talk about this though, which is quite important as well. This is the next thing. It's the bedrooms, which are quite important. So why are the bedrooms so important then?
Bedrooms aren't usually the most feature-rich room in a home. Buyers still want plenty from them though, and I think that's the thing you need to look at. And when you create relaxing space, it's a bit of an escapism, isn't it? It's a wind-down place. It's a wake-up place. You'll be all right in that place. You play right into your kind of relaxation, your desires. Everything really goes on there, isn't it? It's the place that you end up at the last point of your day.
Well, we'll talk about that.
No, not that kind of show.
It's just like, what? Where am I going with this?
But it's true though. It's the place that you end up at, the last thing that you do in the day, and it's the first thing you do in the day, isn't it? So you want it to kind of give you that mental well-being when you're going to sleep and when you wake up.
You really do need. It's right what you said. You really need a space to completely switch off and relax. This is why I don't have a television in my bedroom.
We don't,
because I feel it's, and I've often just like, because it's a nice sort of thing to possibly have, but the fact is you don't actually physically switch off then.
No.
And you're still your brain's in a different place, and the natural chemicals that you get from actually preparing yourself for sleep actually disappear because you're watching the television or possibly engaging on here. I've seen people actually on their phone when they're about to go to sleep, and I'm like, oh no, you're not going to get the proper REM sleep. You're not going to get the proper melatonin and that into your system, which will actually give you deep sleep, which is what you're really after. So how can we use a bedroom in a house, and how could people make that look for saleability wise? What could we do in order to accentuate that?
It's definitely about, again, it's all about space, isn't it? And you don't have to have a lot of space to create space. And I think that's what people need to understand as well. So where possible, particularly if it's in a double room, maintain space around the bed. There's nothing more off-putting when you walk into a room and the bed is pushed up against the window or pushed up against the wall.
Yeah.
Now, I know the practicalities when you're living there, you do that for obvious reasons because it's creating space for you. But actually, if you're staging your home for sale, definitely get your bed so that you can walk around it, because that's a big thing for people.
This is the difference when you come to St Andrews, for example, Law Mill Gardens, places like that. You've typically got the old Betts homes. Now, when you go into these bedrooms, when you try to turn a normal bed round to go the width of the room, it's actually very tight to get along the bottom, if not almost impossible to get along the bottom to get round the other side. So you do see often a lot of people actually putting their headboard at the window and actually having it coming forward, which for me actually is okay, because the curtains are going to close and then you've got adequate space either side. And then you've got easy access as well to the wall, which typically has the built-in wardrobe there. And that's just how these houses were designed. They were never designed for the big beds that we have now. They were designed for your wee tiny, 195 centimetre beds. And that was literally it. But with the size of beds now and the frame that goes with them, it makes it almost impossible to get it over, get the bed, the width, the length of the bed and the width of the room. So that is often why I would recommend, actually, if it works better from the window to in the middle, then, and you've got adequate space either side and then access to the wardrobe, probably that's the best way to go. What
definitely.
other things should we think about then?
I think as well,
you had mentioned actually, and quickly, you had mentioned, we'll backtrack that. You mentioned about hotels. Is it actually quite? Is it? Because I often walk into hotels as well, and you're in the room, and you kind of think to yourself, God, I wish I had a room like this. and you realise it's almost just that extra metre. It makes that fundamental difference to the size of what you've got to the size of what they've got.
Absolutely, it does, and it does make a difference. When we downsized, we kept all of our same furnishings in our bedroom, for instance. But the bedroom that we have is not as big. But what we have done is we've just laid it out slightly differently. And I've got standing lamps. So again, having lamps beside the beds are a good thing. I've got a lovely standing lamp. We've got a smaller table, so you can still have functionality, but the pieces don't need to be big. So we've got a smaller table. We don't have a television, same as yourself, Jim. Never have done. I don't think it's good for your mind if you've got a TV in your room. But what we do have in our room, some people like it, some people might not. But we've actually got a little unit, and we've got our record player, shall we call it, and our vinyl. And so actually I'll sometimes, because we're early bedders, so we'll sit and we'll sometimes read your book and you've got your nice music on in the background and you're just chilling and you're relaxing. So you can create all of this functionality space, but without having a lot of space. It's just be clever with it. So standing lamps is a good thing if you can, or little nightstands that you can put. You can get smaller, like hotel style ones, as you say, and you put them either side of your bed. It just kind of gives it that perfect kind of thing sui look as well. So it just looks nice and posh, and that's that positiveness when someone comes into the room.
What about when we come to colours of the rooms? When somebody walks in, what should we be looking at?
Yeah, I think if you're going to put wallpaper in a room, I think the big factor is if you're going to paper all of the walls, then definitely go for something that's a wee bit more neutral and calming and natural. If you're going for, which I have done and lots of people are doing now, is a feature wall, then you can add a splash of colour, but I wouldn't go too daft in a bedroom on it, because actually it can look too busy and then it makes the mind busy. You're wanting to calm the mind a little bit. So, opt for maybe just one feature wall. You go for sumptuous colours, good tones. I'm going to say create the atmosphere again, but I don't know if I should be saying that now, but create the atmosphere again. But also you want to give a sense of a peaceful sanctuary. So if the walls are really busy, that's not creating that, is it?
This is actually quite good about having this feature wall, because the rest of the walls are blank, and it's an easy gig just to actually repaint them if you're wanting to freshen up the room before you sell. Exactly. I had a discussion with someone a couple of days ago, exactly that thing. Who walked in and says, I'm going to just paint everything. And I went, no. I says, your feature wall is actually really nice. It's still fine. You could keep that and just paint the other walls again. That's all. She says, well, I've got the paint from before. I says, perfect, because your opacity, will be perfect. You'll probably get away with one coat potentially, because it's exactly the same colour. So that's an easy one for someone to do, just to freshen up the room. The things you've got to be aware of, though, is it might actually highlight that the skirting and the facings are needing done, and then it might also highlight the fact that you'll have to do the ceiling as well. So sometimes think about that first before you start the journey, because if it does, you might think, oh dear, I wish I hadn't done it. And when you're halfway through, you're too late. You'll have to do everything else as well. So think about that first, and that's probably why it's worth actually getting a really good estate agent out to actually discuss that with you. You know, whether you should do that or not, and whether it will add that significant value to the end result or attract a bigger audience.
It's true, and I actually had that. I gave someone that advice last week. It was an empty property, no furnishings in it, so you could see the walls were needing done. But there was one room in particular, it was the kitchen. She said, well, I was going to paint the kitchen at least so it looks a wee bit nicer. And I said, don't, because if you paint the kitchen, they're going to come from the kitchen into the lounge and they're going to go, oh, the lounge. Then you're going to have to paint the lounge. Then you're going to go from the lounge into the hall and then you go, oh, then you have, I said, before you know it, you'll be painting the whole house.
Yeah, definitely. So this takes us on to things like flooring and stuff like that.
Yes,
now, one of the things I discussed actually in the East Nuke was I walked into the room. They were going to paint the whole room. They were going to paint the shutters, the windows, the facings, and all the rest of it, and literally just leave the bare floorboards. And they thought that would do. And I went, no, do not touch anything. Put the shutters exactly back where they are, and put a new carpet down. See, when I walked into that room once they were finished, and it was a lot more cost effective and a lot quicker to do. It was absolutely brilliant. And I said, what's going to happen is when people walk into this room, they'll get the smell of new carpet, and they immediately think, new house, been looked after. They don't know they're doing that, but that's the subliminal messages planted straight away. It's like the new car smell, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So what should we think about rugs and all the rest of it? Is this something we should work on, or, you know, why would we do that?
I think it is depending on what your flooring is. So, you know, some people don't like carpets in bedrooms, some people do. So if you have got wooden floorings, I think it's good to use textiles. So putting rugs down is a good thing. Cushions. Not everyone likes curtains in a bedroom. You know, lots of people just will have blinds, but if it's a big room and it's just blinds, then actually it can look a bit cold. So if you don't, put them up because someone else might like that, and it'll give them, it's like you say, it just gives them that kind of emotive feeling.
Sometimes it's a lot to do with acoustics as well, though, isn't it? Because if you don't put curtains in up, you could end up walking into a room with a bare floor, and actually it sounds like a tin can. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point as well. But I think as a final point, remember that when it comes to getting the highest price for your home, there's no such thing as a spare room. Yep. So, you know, that room that we all have in our homes that we just throw everything in, let's make sure that you do something with that and give every bedroom a purpose. Even if you're not using it yourself, especially in today's world, actually spare rooms or box rooms or the smaller room, which is what we usually use, is that space that's not used for anything. Create even like a little home office, put a little desk in there and one little chair and a nice light stand or something, because it will make a massive difference to buyers because they can see that room has a functionality that offers them extra.
Yeah, then that doesn't need to cost anybody anything, because generally most people have that desk and chair somewhere else in their house, in another room, which is actually incorporating something else at the same time. And a typical example of that is it's possibly you know, another bedroom, but they've just got a desk and chairs there where they work during the day. And I'm thinking, well, just take that and put it into that room, and then that makes that other room look bigger. So you don't need to go out to the expense of going buying all these things. Just you might have them already. Some people actually even have them stored in their garage. They've even got stuff stored in their garage already. So hey, bring it out the garage and put it in. Or I tell you what, just to make this room look a wee bit bigger, because nobody's wanting to see all your stuff in this room, stick that in the garage. But then my garage will look cluttered. It's like your garage is the last place that anybody wants to see. Yeah. You know, the rule of thumb is they expect you to open the garage and for it to be full of everything, because that's what everybody uses the garage for.
It's true. Absolutely true. I think as well with that spare room, not only just about home office, you know, a lot of us ladies will have in our master bedrooms, for instance, maybe like a little dressing table. So again, you can just move that out the master, put that in that spare empty room. You're creating a dressing room feel. People will see that functionality.
Perfect. They're like me, I need a mirror to do my hair.
You've been there for hours, Jim.
Look, there's one just out of place here.
So I think that covers it for your sleeping sanctuary. Blissful bathrooms. Why are bathrooms important?
Geez, bathrooms are absolutely fantastic, aren't they? It really is another way to add a high value area where buyers actually focus on the fittings and the fixtures rather than just the space. So, you know, turning up the luxury in your bathroom can actually pay a lot of dividends. what sort of things should we be thinking about, Perry, when we're coming to that? Because for me, I'll say straight away, just to quickly go on this. If you walk into a bathroom and you've got dirty grout or dirty, the seal around the bath and stuff like that, please change it. Even though your bathroom looks absolutely sumptuous and desirable, it just puts people off. And if you've got old, horrible tiles, towels, or your old. I mean, I'll be honest. I have my dressing gown, and I'll probably have it till it falls off my back. That's how I am. But no one wants to see that when they go round to see your house. It doesn't look great at all. So for me personally, these are the things that you could spare yourself some heartache in actually putting people off because you've left your old half-dead towels. Things like round the toilets and stuff. Your toilet carpets and your seat covers and stuff. No, they're a harbour for dust and smells and all these things.
People just think germs when they see them.
Exactly. So what should we be thinking about then, Perry? When we come to the bathroom, how are we going to inject that high-end luxury that can really pay those dividends?
I think the biggest thing is people like to see white, don't they? Because white is clean and it just looks fresh. So if you've got white porcelain, you definitely want to be matching them up and pairing them with high quality taps and metal finishes for a universal timeless appeal. You want to try and do that. Avoid faddy colours for permanent fixtures as well, because it's not everyone's taste and they might just come in and go, oh, and they don't like that, and that's going to be a lot to change. So I think that's really important. I'm seeing that quite a lot just now, where you're seeing the brass fittings and the black fittings, and whilst it's nice and it can have its place, it's not timeless.
For me, the black fittings are a fad. It's going to go out of date pretty quick. I mean, it looks great to sell a house, and that's exactly what somebody's trying to achieve. And fine, probably that's what you'd want to go for then if you're if you are, because we're talking about selling houses, that's what you want. But for long term, most people are going to end up working out eventually that it's probably out of date.
It's not for them.
It's a typical example of you remember, and I'll remember this, about the Pampas Green baths. They were fantastic at their time, and everybody wanted Pampas Green. They wanted Whisper Grey was another one. They wanted the Burgundy. They wanted the deep blue bath suite and all the rest of it. And they might come back, but I tell you, they'll probably come back once I've ripped them out all my houses. I'll rip them out all my houses and put white ones in, and all of a sudden they'll come back into fashion. And I'm like, damn, I wish I'd kept them. I doubt it very much, actually.
No, I doubt it very much as well.
But yeah, white is definitely one to go for, and the gold caps are no, because
I would agree.
People like to see clean, and chrome does it every single time. That chrome metal finish, it's a timeless appeal. Absolutely. Just what you said there, Perry. Avoid these fabby colours for the permanent fixtures. Okay, showers. For me, showers definitely. Let's talk about that. Showers. There's nothing more off-putting, because some people do walk in and say, "Can I check your water pressure?" And they switch on the shower, and it's like dripping. And you kind of think to yourself, "I'd love to have a shower. It's going to be powerful and it's going to feel invigorating." That's the word I'm looking for, right on the money. And that's what I want. See what I'm talking about, benefits. It's not the feature, which is the power shower. It's the benefit you derive from it. So invest in, possibly you've got a really good quality house and it's a high value house. Invest in that expensive powerful shower with a strong water pressure and the thermostatic control for even temperatures, and that invigorating experience. If you are reinvigorating or refurbishing your bathroom, then make sure you put the controls before you get in the shower, not underneath the shower. Because there's nothing more off-putting as well as having to sneak into the shower and quickly pull yourself out so you don't get soaked. And then you've got to put your hand in every now and again. Whereas if you've got your controls on the panel at the wall before you walk in, because this is what most really good plumbers do nowadays, they put the controls before you walk in. You're turning the shower comes on, you put your hand in and go, perfect, yeah, I can walk in now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big factor as well is a lot of people like the rainfall shower heads as well, and we often point them out because again, it just is a luxury feature, isn't it? It talks high end in people's minds.
It's just the word, eh? And yet
Mhm.
you can get a rainfall shower like what I've got out of Argos for £39.99
I
and
know.
add it on as an attachment to your existing shower system.
Hmm.
And literally, you've got a rainfall shower straight away with the added handheld, and you
Hmm.
just flip the wee valve round
Hmm.
for whichever one you want.
I
So
agree.
that's an easy option to put a rainfall shower in without any real cost.
No, I agree. I think the other thing for me as well is the tiling in a bathroom. Again, we often point out when you go in and you see like the luxury porcelain tiles and
Yeah,
the really big tiles and that. And I'm not saying you need to go to that expense, but what I would strongly recommend if you don't already have it, it is worth thinking about. If you're tiling, don't just tile around the bath, the basin, and the shower. It
yeah,
really increases the value and makes the property look expensive and that it's being cared for and gives it a kind of complete design if you tile the whole walls.
yeah.
I think that makes a big difference. But if you see part and part, to people, that's just like, oh, that means I'm going to have to do that. And if I'm
Same when
doing
it
that, I
comes,
might as well
same
rip
when
the
it
rest
comes
of
to
it out.
things like wet wall and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Often you see people trying to skimp back. Wet wall is very expensive. We know that it's about £300 a sheet. It's probably more
Mhm.
than that now, but it does add a lot of luxury on wet wall.
Yeah.
Get something. It'll probably be a timeless classic as well.
Hmm.
Again, we'll go back to this brass fittings thing.
Hmm.
Make sure that actually somebody can see it's not going to be off-putting and it's not your personal taste.
Hmm.
And generally the plumbers will be able to tell you what is the most desirable style just now. So
Yeah.
tune into your plumber, or your estate agent should know this.
Yeah.
This is why I say, most people say I'd love to show people around houses. That's a great job, and it's like, that's not what we do.
It's not at
we
all.
we advise people how to get from A to B in the most efficient way possible, adding the most value in that process, and
Mm-hmm.
with the least investment in what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what we do. It's helping people manage life as it happens.
Yeah.
It's not looking around houses.
No,
So
I agree
that's
completely.
so we're advisors to them.
Hmm.
So what should we think about? Oh, here, this is the one. The one that gets me the most is the huge amount of um, shampoos and half-opened toothbrush, toothpaste, and lying all about all over the place, and the marks in
Hmm.
the sink, and just all the dust covering bottles at the back and
Hmm.
down by the cistern and everything. I mean, what should we be thinking about that? Should we do something about that?
Totally. There's nothing more off-putting when you do that because what that's telling somebody instantly is there's no space in here because the stuff's everywhere. So they
Yeah,
absolutely need to be creating that illusion of space. So for me, it's about hiding all your potions and pills. Us ladies have a lot of those things, and it's
tell me
about
about
yeah, it's like thinking about cabinets, how you're going to store them, nice mirrored ones. If you're lucky enough that you've got a room within your bathroom or shower room, again, a standalone locker is a good thing as well. You get some lovely,
it. Yeah,
nice modern ones. Don't need to spend
stick
lots
it
of money.
behind the door.
Yeah, put them behind the doors, or you can actually even make a feature of it in a room if you've got a nice sized room. Um, the property we've got at the moment that we've just brought on in William Street, she's done a fantastic thing. This lady does a lot of antique things. She's got an antique cabinet and she put it like a vanity cabinet under the sink and kind of painted it a lovely colour and what have you, and made a real feature of it in the room. But again, it's providing that functionality of just getting everything away so
Yeah,
that you're not seeing it. I think that's a big thing. Then the final thing really is the spa-like aesthetics. We talked about luxury, so it's about accessorizing. You mentioned earlier, Jim, about the towels. Even if they're not the ones you're using every day, even if it's
yeah,
just for when people are coming round, have that little stack of fluffy towels that you can bring out and put your other ones away. Lift bath mats if people are coming. Bath mats on floors and basins, people don't want to see that. So robes, again, you don't want to have those around the place. Swap the Carex bottles. We've all got the Carex stuff or the stuff you get in Aldi or whatever you're buying. Get your posh pumps out and put your nice soaps in them so people can see them as well. That's a big thing. Like your Joe Malone look. People like that as well. You don't necessarily need to be using it. You want to keep it for that special occasion.
yeah. They all do really nice ones. Bayless and
Yeah,
Hardin's a really good one as well, and they've got the
exactly.
proper dispensers and the proper,
Hmm.
and they're very affordable. And you can go to your local supermarket, and actually get their own stuff. their own labelled brands, and they look just as good as well.
Mm-hmm. There's lots of nice ways you can do it. So I think accessorize, declutter, and just put the posh bits out.
Yeah. I noticed that most of the hotels and that have actually cottoned on to the fact that a lot of people actually walk out the room with their stuff. so they've actually fixed it in so you actually can't get it out at all.
I know.
Because they're putting Bailiff and hardening and stuff and Joe Malone and everything, and people are actually, oh, I'm having that and I'm taking that home.
I paid for my room, I'm having everything that's in it.
Give me the coffee, but you don't even drink coffee. I'm taking it, I paid for it.
So the final thing for me is your garden. I know we started off on that, so it's a good way to end it as well. So
yeah.
Gorgeous gardens and outside influences. I'm probably, all my social media channels, people are like, oh, here she goes again with this garden, because every weekend there's a new photo goes up because we've done a wee bit extra thing. So, but it does add value. So I think for me, although outside space is supremely high value and it's a commodity, it's often a home's outside appearance that provides that initial hook, as we talk about as well, Jim, don't we?
It's the first impression.
First impression is it's the tones for the viewings. It's vital role on how your property looks from the outside and also how the garden looks.
Here's what I see here in the gardens. When you go to some people's houses, they neglect the front because they don't actually use it all the time. Yeah. But they actually put all the investment and the money into the rear garden. Mm-hmm. And yet the front is where everybody gets their first impression of the house when they walk in and get to the curbside appeal. And it's the first thing they actually see when they do the drive-by. Because, you know, contrary to popular opinion, they don't just phone you up and say, let's go and see it. They actually go around and drive around it. Now that happened with the cribs. You know, last week when I was in St. Monans, I was in getting a coffee, and literally the people that were after me said to me, "You're Jim Parker?" And I went, "Yeah." Says, "We're actually just around the corner. We saw your video for the one at the cribs that you're just doing your pre-portal on, and it's absolutely, you know, we just thought we'd come and have a look at it." They never actually spoke to us. They never contacted us or anything. They just drove around and had a look at it. And the thing for me is, if they don't see the right curb appeal, you'll never know about them.
No, it's true.
Nobody will ever know about them.
And there has been occasions where
we get back in front of them though. With proper retargeting strategy, so they don't forget us, and we have an opportunity to catch them again for that very reason. But that's another story. That's a good social media retargeting strategy, which we follow all the time and we use to get back in front of that person without them actually knowing it. Now, that's another story. But luckily enough, I had the key and I went, "Would you like to go around right now then?" And they were over the moon, I'll tell you.
That's the difference though, isn't it?
But we'll come back to, I mean, that had a fantastic garden to the side. It was actually really low maintenance. It was perfectly privately enclosed, and the sun came up on it, went round and went down in it all day and went down in it as well. And it was right off the sunroom, which actually led into the kitchen. So you could have your whole lifestyle. Literally, it's just what you said. People have actually worked out now that the garden could be another almost usable room.
It is massively so. It's a huge thing just now. And that's what we're doing in ours. So we've designed 3 spaces where we're sitting in the newly 3rd design space. And we're saying, do you know, actually, we could do that over there. And we're now thinking about creating a 4th space, because it is about that. It's about that creation of outside space. And it brings so much to people's lifestyles now. And a lot of people as well are enjoying the gardens more. They're socialising more because we had no choice. We couldn't go anywhere. But it's become actually a more of an appreciated item, I think, than before, for that reason.
So coming back to you saying it provides an initial hook and it sets the tone for your viewings, what should we be thinking about then?
So absolutely, turn your garden or a balcony, if you've got it, into an extension of your home, just what we said there, Jim. Styling the garden as if it's an outside room is really appropriate, with appropriately sized furnishings, enough seats for a household, because people want to sit out there and eat, have their morning coffee, have their breakfast, etc. So make it look like it functions for a family as well. But again, if it is a balcony that you've got, or a smaller courtyard, because we see that a lot in the East Nook where people maybe have courtyard gardens, it's about getting a nice, like even just a 2-seater table, some nice planters, sun shining, and you can just enjoy it, and it shows as a functioning space. So that's really important. I just closed my window a moment ago, and it covers this next point. Jet wash your paths.
Yeah.
If they're mouldy and they're black and they're weedy, jet wash them. You'll be amazed at the difference that it'll make. Same with your patios and your decking. Trim and weed your grass as well. That's a big thing. You know, people don't want to rock up and then see that it's not being cared for. Clear away the junk and the clutter. And I know that's really difficult if it's a family and you've got young children, you've got all the kids' toys in the garden and things like that. But and a lot of kids have got these trampolines and things, but you know, put the trampoline down at the bottom of the garden, or if you've got a wee side bit, put them in there, and just give yourself that opportunity to be able to create a lovely space that you can have room to relax in. I think that's important for people. So clear away that junk and clutter. You want to welcome your viewers as well with seasonal blooms. So get some colour into your garden, whether that's pots or beds, depending again what you've got. If it's a courtyard you've got, you can add that splash of colour with nice pots and all the seasonal flowers that we've got just now. So I think that's really important as well to do that. The other big factor as well for me, and we often see this, Jim, is when people haven't cleared their gutters, or you know, taken all the leaves out from the winter months when we've come into the spring, or weeds are growing in them. Because actually what will happen is if you get a rainy day, the water's going to be running down your building. People come and see that, they're going to think there's a problem, aren't they?
Absolutely, definitely. They're going to think it just paints a picture. Even though you get people actually saying, "Oh, but I fixed that now." Well, just get rid of the stain. You need to get rid of that, because it just tells people there's something wrong. When in actual fact, you just told me there's nothing wrong. That happens inside when you get people where, you know, they've had leaks in their ceiling. It's like, oh well, I'll kind of, it's been fixed. I'll get to. No, you'll have to do it, because even the home report, when it gets done, the surveyor will go, okay, there must have been a problem there at some point, and he will mention it was at some point, and then what's happened out of that is now it's put a bit of doubt in somebody's mind.
Exactly. So I think that's important to do that, but also to fix, you know, any chipped paintwork. If you've got wooden doors or whatever, you know, revarnish them, fix paintwork, repair cracks in your mortar as well if you've got them. So again, if you've got render issues, there's wee bits there, fix those. The front door and windows, we often see this. Clean them. If you've got white doors and windows, just go around and clean them. If you've got brass fittings or silver fittings, get the polish out and give them a wee buff up as well. Again, it's about setting that scene and showing that it's cared for, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, it is this old thing about, you know, people just want to see that your house has been looked after, so they don't actually so they don't feel that they're taking on your burdens, you know, about what you've neglected.
Exactly, 100%. And I think for me as well, it's the only part of your home that buyers check out before, during, and after the viewing. The outside needs to stand up to that scrutiny. You know, are they actually even going to come over the doorstep if they've got to the front and don't like how it looks?
Here's a quick one as well. Go out to your pavement and do all the weeds along your outside wall. I see that a lot when you drive into streets now. I mean, you know, we do it, and our neighbours do it as well, and the street looks really nice. And you could argue about, oh, why is the council not doing it? But the council's got no money to do it anymore. So you've got to do it yourself. But it's a really easy thing to do. It's just weed all the weeds in the gutters, outside your front and on the pavement, and then along your front wall as well. And again, you could have the most beautiful garden in the world, and that's just going to put people off. They see, you know, a jungle growing out the pavement. So just do it for that one-off if you want to. I know you maybe don't do it all the time, and you maybe object to doing it because that's somebody else's job. But the reality is, you need to do it because it will put people off.
Yeah, it definitely does do. And that is what people will scrutinise before they get over the threshold. So when a property looks the part from the outside, it breeds confidence to the person that the rest of the property is going to look nice once they come inside. And actually it gives them that confidence then to make an offer on your house, because they feel that actually they're getting good value for money and it delivers to them what they need.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the next steps?
So for me, that pretty much is it for me. Make sure you get your offer really for your garden. For me, I think next steps for people, I think that every time, you know, you're looking at property, make sure that you, as a preparer and a seller, make sure that the person come to look at it can see all of the love and care and attention that you've given it. Because if you do that and show the special qualities that your house has, you've really got the opportunity to make your house shine and ultimately get the buyer that's going to give you the offer that you want.
What can we tell the people out there that don't have the time to do that and potentially don't have the money?
You can get someone in to do it. I mean, there's contractors out there that can help with that. It doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be time consuming.
Probably my best advice, though, I would say personally, is get us round for a chat first before you start that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are struck, because there is people out there that probably have a massive house, but now because of the increase in costs, the running costs, they don't have the money to do this anymore. And it's almost like, because their house is now a jungle because the summer season's arrived, then they don't have, and they probably don't have the time, and they maybe don't have the health to do it, because it's overpowering now to do the garden, because they used to do it before and something's happened, and they're not able to have the physicality to do it anymore. So, and they can't afford for somebody else to do it for them, hence the reason why they're selling the house. Probably my best advice to anyone out there is get us in first to have a chat about it, and we could make that happen, really. I think we could make that happen, and the reason is because you don't know what you don't know, but we do know what you don't know, and it's our job to convey that to you so you understand that, and that will help you in your journey. This is when I go back to, this is my final words on this. This is when I go back to, our job is to get you from A to B. Hence the reason, the more questions you answer of mine, the more answers I have about where I need to take you to the next stage in your life. And in the most efficient manner possible, and adding the most significant value possible.
I agree. I mean, and not every part of a home is created equally. And I think some areas, as we've said, do have quantifiably higher values than others. So at the same time, you want your home to be unique. You want it to be shown the saleable qualities. You might not necessarily be able to put your finger on it. We can help you with that. And nonetheless, what will happen with that then is you'll secure that vital buyer that you're looking for with minimal input from yourself, hopefully.
Perfect. Thanks very much for coming on this morning. And if anybody's got any questions on the rerun or anything like that, please stick them in the comments. You can message us direct out as well. We're easily accessible through our social media channels. Until next time, guys, it's bye-bye from us.
Bye.